Welcome to Wisecast. This podcast was created and fully funded by Wise Option with the intention to provide helpful information to our users via an informal conversational video podcast. This video podcast does not receive funds from third-party sponsorship or otherwise outside donations. It only represents our personal opinions. We want to share with you our experiences, and it should not be taken as personal, business, medical, or veterinary advice. We do not disclose any of our clients' data or personal information and respect our clients' privacy. This is a conversation between us and our users, but includes information we feel may be helpful to all in the horse industry. If you are not yet a Wise Option user, please tune in and let us know what you think. Tune in while working on paperwork or on the drive home. Even though this is a video podcast, it was designed to be listened to without the video as well. Put your eyes on the road and save your questions for when you reach your destination. If you would like to leave a comment, please go to the Wise Option discussion group on Facebook, where there will be a designated post for the podcast. So, let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wisecast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Eduardo, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Rachel. Thank you for having me, and it's good to be here with you.
Good. Well, today we're really excited. We have Dr. Nathan Canaday from the 4-6s Ranch, who's going to be joining us today to talk to us about a few things. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get him on air.
Hello, Dr.
Hi, Dr. Canaday. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good. Doing good. Thank you. How's breeding season treating you?
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. It's been really well.
Good. Good. Glad to hear it. So just kind of a little bit of background. I know you've worked at the 6s now it's been 9 years?
Yes, ma'am. This will be the 9th breeding season we just finished up here.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so before the 6s, I know you went to CSU and graduated there. And then after that, you did a few internships.
Yes, ma'am. Just externships. I came after I graduated from CSU. I came straight to the 4-6s. But while I was in vet school, I made it a priority to try to get around to as many clinics as I could to, socialize and network with as many like-minded veterinarians as I could. So.
Awesome. Very nice. So with breeding season, kind of being in full swing, and here now, I think, oh gosh, it's already June. It's already June. So you guys kind of starting to see things slow down a little bit. How have you guys been doing with, I know we talked with Dr. Blodgett a couple weeks ago, but, have you guys still been doing okay with everything going on?
Yes, ma'am. Yep. There hasn't been, fortunately, we're very blessed to live in ranching country and be in the middle of nowhere. And so don't have much problem with the virus at the moment. And really in some ways, I feel like some people have actually done more breeding, because I've heard the comment fairly frequently this year of, well, we can't go compete, we can't go to this rodeo, so we might as well breed this mare this year or flush one embryo and then go back to legging them up. And so there's actually been that aspect of it that's been a little bit more unique.
Yeah, definitely. So would you mind kind of taking us through maybe a little day in your life, right now, maybe during breeding season, what it kind of looks like on average for you guys, what between you, I know you guys have got some interns out there, kind of between, how an average day looks like for you.
Sure. So this time of year, we usually meet about 5:30 in the morning. We're doing a lot of frozen semen. I feel like more than the average place, it seems like. This time of year, especially, we're doing a lot of the local ranches. We have a lot of big ranches around, and so they'll commercially sell some breeding, some of their stallions, but their stallions are alive, but they're live covering mares out on their ranch. And so the horses will come to us to be bred to this other ranch stallion, for example. So we'll do the 2-dose technique with the frozen semen. And so we're breeding a lot of mares at 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. With that timed interval. So usually we'll meet about 5:30 and we'll palpate the frozen semen mares and then check on any critical cases. And as both of you well know, then we go over to breakfast with Miss Susie, and we're very blessed with her cooking us breakfast. So we'll pause about 6:15, eat breakfast real quick, and usually get back to palpating about 6:30 in the morning. This time of year, I think we have about 90 to 100 mares that we're checking every morning. But it is definitely starting to drop off here. And then here in the last week or two, we got about 7 more interns in. They're going to be here for the summertime for sales prepping and getting all the racehorses up, and getting those up and coming for the sales. And then that'll transition into all the ranch horse sales too. So just literally as soon as one horse leaves the barnyard or departs to go home with the owner, we fill that hole with a horse that needs to come up for sales prepping. So the barnyard is just as full of ever. And it's kind of a Tetris game to figure out how we're going to stack everything in here.
Sounds good. And you guys have got quite a full also hospital bill, I imagine, as well.
Yes. I meant to look before we started, but I think we have around 56 horses in the hospital.
Wow.
Some, probably 20 or so of those are rotococcus cases right now. And then there's always 15 or so wounds and lacerations and lamenesses. And then we have a resident group that are on maintenance, whether it's Adequan, cushingoid horses, that sort of thing. They're on maintenance type medications as well. So.
Yeah, very full bill.
Oh, yeah.
So would you mind kind of taking us through kind of maybe how you manage typical hospital cases? I know you see a wide variety of them, but in terms of, between using Wise Option and anything else that you might use, how you would manage a typical hospital case. I know you like to use, our progress notes, and how do you kind of keep everybody informed with those hospital cases? I imagine it's kind of hard to make sure you keep everybody up to date.
Yeah. So I feel like being organized is very important. And that was something I had to learn through time. Before I used to have a yellow pad and piece of paper and try to scribble down notes frantically. And then as people would run blood work, I'd stack that on my pile. And I'd try to pick a spot on the counter to keep all my notes. But as you know, in West Texas, the wind blows and then stuff scatters. And so trying to be organized is really important. And so over time, I've been able to transition into like an iPad, and so everything's right there. And then Eduardo taught me about OneNote, and so then I use that program to like jot down notes as I'm working on a horse, and then just as soon as I can, get inside. And with this Wise Option 6, one of the really neat things about that is so say for example an eyeball case comes in, and we need to start doing treatments every 2 hours, but it's in the middle of breeding season. And I'm not going to have time to make my soap and enter charges and all that right now. I can go create a patient and with templates or even just prescribing a treatment, I can set it up every 2 hours, start the treatment. And then every day we have a designated person who's responsible for oddball times. So I just tell them, hey, we had a new horse come in, check the treatment list.
Sorry, I think we might be having a little bit of connectivity issues, but it'll come back on here in just a second.
Yeah, what people don't realize it's usually how big their hospital operation is. I think it's something that, because this image that everybody has about the 4-6 is mostly, as a stallion station or a large mare care facility. For them also being a select breeders affiliate, so with connections throughout the world, and the quality of their horses is something that overshadows a little bit, the intensity that happens. I've seen also how, beautiful it is, the work they do in managing logistically every single department and making sure that the transition goes smoothly throughout the process. They're very good in regards to logistic and methodologies. I think it's one of the things that every place, and I was really curious to hear Dr. Kennedy today, was to share with our audience how his mindset is. And, as we already could see, he's very concerned about organization. And I'll let you keep going from that point on, Dr. Kennedy. We kept you. I'm curious to learn more about your concerns about being organized and with your record keep. Because I'm going to be honest with you, I've been to many places already, and I'm still to find somebody as thorough with their notes as you. So I applaud, and of course that you, with your great suggestions of improvements that we have received, we always like to pick a little bit in your brain and see, the things that you'd like, because the way you write your progress notes, your soaps, your discharge instructions really blow my mind away to see. Like, again, I'm saying, comparing to the vast majority out there, because it's always this dilemma that veterinarians have. You have to take care of the patients. You want to, at the same time, provide thorough record keeping so customers can have access to that. Don't forget the charges, of course, because the business needs to make money. You have a bunch of interns paying attention to you, so you are providing training at the same time by the same token. So keep all these things going on at the same time. Of course, that when people talk about computers, you're going to say, come on, give me a break, right? And you are one of those that see the computer indeed as a tool, because you do that as you go. And I know that you just said that you wake up very early. You are an early bird for sure. But I know that you want to be with your family and your kids at the end of the day, so you can reserve time for your, for your little ones as well. How do you manage all of that? Because again, the notes you make, it's amazing.
Well, I think a lot of it has developed over time, in terms of, because I've always wanted to do a good job, both in being a veterinarian and in record keeping. Because I think one of the first thing that slips is, because we're pulled in so many directions, is oftentimes the record keeping starts over time. A lot of veterinarians start getting real slack in that area. And so I always told myself I didn't want to do that, and I wanted to maintain good records all the time. And what it took was kind of twofold thing, but there were many nights where we would put in a 14, 15-hour breeding day, go home, play with the kids for a couple hours, and then come back at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night to do the paperwork. And I do paperwork. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I do paperwork till midnight or 1 a.m, just because I wanted to do a good job of it. And then you come along and you're always asking, well, how can I make your life easier? How can I do that? And it took me a couple of years to finally be like, he's being serious. And if we can just, get together, you can come up with so many different ways. Because, like, for example, with the older versions of Wise Options, when you made a record, you had to put your soap and all that in first, and then you could, enter your treatments. And so a lot of times those eyeball cases, like that example I was just using, I didn't have time to stop and make the full record right then and there. And so then I would just have to go tell whichever intern, hey, give the treatments at this such and such a time. And there'd be times where obviously either I dropped the ball and forget to tell them, or that since it wasn't on their printed treatment list, they might forget. And so until you got that record in, there's always a chance that it wouldn't be as accurately performed as you'd want it to. And so, you guys have helped so much creating all these different tools to more quickly utilize things. And for example, like I just said, being able to create that hospital record and just do a treatment and then come back for the soap. That right there made me be able to triage my time so much better, that I could make sure the patient was getting treated and the charges were getting entered right then, and then I could come back for the paperwork soap portion of it later. And then what's greatly helped in the last, I don't remember how long, a year or so, are the things like the macros and the digital circle sheets and the templates. And this time of year, rotococcus is real big. And before those records, I think I used to time it, but it'd take 30 minutes for me to do a good record. Well, between macros to enter charges, templates to prescribe stuff, And then the friendly editor, I can do a row caucus record in like 5 minutes, and it is a thorough, detailed record. And you know, it just, the efficiency of it is crazy, but yet it's still very solid, good records for that patient.
So thank you so much for letting us know that, you know, how this goes. And to those of you who are listening to this, and if you have plans to be an intern or at least apply to the 4/6 range, I'm going to make some questions to Dr. Kennedy in a few that it might be interesting to you. But Dr. Kennedy, one of the problems here that not problems, I would say like a little obstacle is to have our crowd to at least give a chance to some of the tools, because it's not easy to get a vet or an intern or a technician for that matter just say, come on, let me show you this here on the computer. And because I know that it takes some time for you to practice, taste the different tools.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody has that mindset that, you know, if I make some time over here to this particular thing, okay, I'm going to spend here an hour learning this thing, but it's going to save me tons of hours down of the road. Usually, how do you choose which tools in the program you're going to pick, and how do you try them along in different, because I believe you might do some sort of there are certain tools are more applicable in certain situations. So for example, I've seen people saying that the DCS, which is our digital circle sheet, where you can, just so for you out there, no, it's just a screen where instead of entering one chart at a time, you just click, 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 and you can, but it takes time to customize those things, to prepare those things. So the question is, how do you choose or exchange or interchange the tools in different positions, and how you determine this tool is good for this moment as opposed that tool is good for that other moment, if that makes sense?
Yeah. It really evolves over time, I feel like. For example, whenever you first created the digital circle sheets, you know, I created a long list of all these, you know, if it's a colic course, if it's a foot abscess, I'll click on it, and every potential charge I might want to do is on those deals. Um, and and it really was super handy. And so then for a while, all I used was digital circle sheets. And then you came out with the task finder little search button where you can search for different charges. So if I'm only going to enter like a foot poultice, instead of going to that digital circle sheet, now I might just go straight to that task finder and pull that one charge out, as opposed to going to the add charge button. Um, and then over time, my macro list has really grown, and I really love the macros because you can just, you know, come up with really short abbreviations and enter charges so quick. I mean, so for the average wound that comes in, you know, I can hit exam, enter TT for tetanus toxoid, enter clean and debride, enter, you know, and within 5 seconds have all my charges entered from the macros, as opposed to, you know, sometimes with the digital circle sheet, now you have to click, 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 you know. So I utilize all the tools, but really it just kind of over time, it kind of mutates a little bit in terms of whichever one saves the most amount of time, because all those resources are so cool, because in a particular instance, one will be quicker, in another instance, one will be less, you know, kind of, you know, for example, like if a case is only going to have 4 charges, it might be quicker for me to just punch them in if I know I have macros for all of them. But if I did something a little more unique on a wound or something, like if I lavaged it and if I did a regional lymph infusion, I might go to my digital circle sheet because all that's right there, and I can click, 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 click. Because, you know, you obviously don't have macros for everything. So it kind of just, whatever in the end will be quickest, and you kind of, you know, after you use wise options for a while, you get to where you know, the program is so neat because there's so many ways to do things. You know, there's so many ways to skin a cat that you just kind of learn how to do it, you know.
Yeah, in a sense, I'm feeling that, you know, I would say that you have technology bug in your veins, right? Because you love technology. And
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not quite sure if every single veterinarian out there is on the same path, that some of
Sure.
them are totally averse to technology. But to those who are, giving the try, um, to at least create this sense of efficiency so you can accomplish more in the least possible time stamp. I think that's the ultimate goal with perfection, as close as possible to perfection. Now,
Yeah.
switching gears a little bit and talking about your interns
Hmm.
and your technicians, um, percentage wise, do you think they have had an easy transition learning these tools, or they stick with their style and that's it?
I think there's obviously some of both. Um, just with the different personalities and everything, it is hard. And me and Rachel actually talked about it some in the last week or two. But um, if you can just take some time and give them a good orientation, then they just latch on to it and do good. So, for example, the interns that come in January, we have a whole wave of interns come in prior to breeding season. I'm usually able to give them a good orientation, introduce them to everything, and they do great, as opposed to that those 7 or 8 interns that come on here in the middle of May while we're still kind of going pretty hard and heavy with breeding season. And they're coming in to help primarily sales prep, but also they still help in the clinic and in the breeding barn. I don't have as much time to orientate them. And so as soon as they get logged in, all this, everything's so customizable that sometimes they have a hard time. Um, and so one idea that I was thinking about, 'cause I know that you guys have such great resources with the different e-learning modules and the different videos that you've been producing. But I was thinking about here, I need to come up with a 4-6 is for the intern to get here in May. How do you work the treatment list? How do you look at the calendar? How do you do the 2 or 3 things that an intern would need to know coming in for the summer? They're only going to be here for 4 or 5 months, but it is so hard to just open up Wise Option that's so customizable and unique to for them to open it up and just go at it running. So, so there's some of that.
And one question also that I have for you is this: trying to share the experience with other practices out there. I believe, regardless Wise Option, I think that one of the secrets for efficiency in any operation, it's for sure the everybody being on the same page. How often do you have meetings with your staff? How often do you get together with your people, not only for training but for learning? And how is the process? Because the way you guys do there, it works like a watch. There's a lot of you, and I say that because it's, for us, it's so rewarding to see clients like you who utilize, that's the meaning of our work. And when we see that being exploited to squeezing milk out of rocks, that's basically what you do with the system. In the silent communication, you have so a group that is synchronized and on the same page. I'm curious to learn from you. I know, how do you keep everybody in this methodology? How do you implement this process?
Well, I guess it's funny because the different perspectives, but I always look at it as yes, we utilize it good, but I always feel like there's so much of Wise Options that we don't utilize and that we could do better. Because every time I learn about the different modules you guys have, I keep thinking, golly, we could do so much better in this area, or we could so be more efficient if we started doing this. And so we don't really have big group sit down type meetings, but just periodically. For example, just yesterday we rallied all the interns together and had a talk. But usually we're addressing so many other issues besides just how to use Wise Option. We kind of just periodically, not at a set interval, but as needed, kind of pull everybody together and have little discussions, and get everyone on the same page with stuff. But it would be good to have group meetings and especially with as you guys release different updates too, because whenever you release some new version, if not everybody has has heard about it, then it's hard for everyone to be on the same page. But I really think that a lot of it is we just, we try to use it to the best that we can. But whenever I look at it, I always think, man, there's so much more that we could be doing and doing better. So I just try to drive at it that way of how can we keep utilizing it better.
Gotcha. I'll let you keep going with your questions, Rachel. I will pop up here if I have more.
Okay. Well, changing gears just a little bit. I know we kind of talked about, utilizing especially Wise Option in the hospital sense, and just, like you were saying, taking good records and keeping up on, records and communication between interns and coworkers and of course clients. What kind of impact have you seen, those, how you've gotten so efficient and so quick at getting those records and having those detailed records? Have you seen any difference in client communication and what an impact that has made on, your ability to both communicate with clients and also obviously transmit information and kind of make sure that that's done at a succinct level?
Oh, it definitely has, for sure. Because whenever you are finding yourself doing paperwork at 10 o'clock at night, and then you come across, oh man, I forgot to call them and tell them this horse had a laceration, obviously that's not good. And so being able to stay on top of things, and all these tools that you guys have created have helped me to, instead of having that mindset of, well, I'll do it when I can do the whole thing and do it complete, like trying to do it right now and while it's happening, get it done, get it recorded, and go on. Just having that mindset has really helped too. And then over time, is a lot more clients, in cowboys included, because that's a lot of who we deal with. They're getting better about text messages and that sort of thing. So it's not like you have a full out, drawn out conversation.
Right.
And so being able to quickly text them, just a quick update, like it means so much to clients love to be in the loop, and they love to be informed, and they love to know what's going on. So the more you keep them informed, the better. With technology and cameras and stuff, like if a horse has a wound, being able to text them wound picture updates, they just love that sort of thing, Yeah. And so by being on top of your paperwork and your record keeping, everything, and not having that such time consuming, then you can start to focus on, okay, how can I improve now? How can I better communicate with the client? How can I better take care of the patient? And then you can start to come up with other ideas and improvements.
I think that that's your statement, just saying that, usually a thorough record keeping, like a rhodocaucus that you were mentioning, would take you, 30 minutes. Using the tools, it goes down to 5 minutes. That's the secret, learning how to use the tools in your benefit. And if there's technicians out there, because interested in going to the 4-6s, what are the things that you look for when they apply?
Well, somebody who's self-motivated, really wants to learn, really has that mindset of kind of like I just talked about, how can I make things better? How can I continually improve things? We all have so much responsibility with our jobs that it helps to not need to babysit somebody, that somebody can get out and go and just have a lot of enthusiasm. Obviously having good head knowledge of the horse industry, the reproduction industry, that sort of thing is helpful. But also I found that personally, I really like somebody who's teachable. I'd rather have somebody who maybe not doesn't know everything in the world, but is teachable. To me, that goes longer than anything.
Fast learners.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you something. If somebody wants to go into the horse business and want to be sharp, go to the 4-6s. They will learn everything. They will be exposed from software to actually doing anything with the animals. So they're gonna actually, you guys do a terrific job. I'm really impressed about that. But it's specifically, because today I think that the businesses in general are so pressured to the word efficiency. I think people are getting even a little bit paranoid with the word efficiency, streamline. But that's true. That's exactly what's happening in the economic times. So we must be efficient so we can produce not only the same, but if possible, even more with the same resources that we have available to us. Any business, I mean, by that. And that's, I think, what it's the idea I had behind inviting you to come here today, because you guys do such a terrific job about exploiting and go towards that. Because I've seen so many places out there struggling, literally struggling to keep their head above the water. And one thing, it's like the dog chasing their own tail, because it says, I don't have time because I have so many things. I cannot put myself to learn a new system or something because I'm so swamped here on this side. How can I? But to untangle the knots, you're going to have to sit down sometime down the road and start doing one at a time until the line is straight again. And if possible, not letting you to entangle again, right? But that's one of the things that I think it's so much, this word of enthusiasm and organization. Of course, like you said, waking up still early, but doing as you go. That's, I think it's the mentality that usually, at least I feel hard to sell that idea to our users. And that's why I would like to bring people like you, people who have hands-on, and say, yes, it's doable, it's possible, and it's a positive that there's a benefit out there.
Oh, compared to 5 years ago, my paperwork and life is completely revolutionized for the better. Like I said, from those late nights to now being effective but it really it's all to your guys' credit, because you come up with ways to help us be efficient and to be better. And also to your credit too, you listen to our ideas. Like, you come in and you're like, how can we fix this? And I'm like, well, I really need it. This is my hang up. Can you fix it? And then you fix it. And so then after we get where we're efficient, then also now it allows us to then come up with ideas. And that's what I'm always excited about. You guys are continually improving things. And so now that we got the record stuff down and we're down pat with that, now I'm excited about, Rachel came up with those form letters for discharge instructions or dispense things. Now, before, when a patient was standing there, I felt like, well, now I just got to scribble something on the side of the bottle or on a 3x5 card, and I was like, man, that doesn't look very professional. And so now, since the entering the charges, entering the record, all that streamlined, now we can come up with other cool ideas of other ways to look more professional, to better communicate with the client. And so by getting all the other stuff down pat and efficient, it just allows for more creative energy to go on and keep doing better, which that's why I'm always so excited to see that Remuda come pulling in.
Creative and productive ideas. I like that very much.
Yeah. Oh, I have to ask you then, what do you think is probably your top 3 favorite things that you use that makes kind of your life easier, and it doesn't have to be in Wise Option, but anything that you do that, between entering records and, getting the patient in the stall out the door, what's kind of your favorite 3 things that really help you do that?
Well, I'd have to say, since I can go outside of Wise Options, my iPad has really helped me, because if I don't write it down, I'm liable to forget it. And on that same thing, I learned this one from Eduardo, but little tricks like that just press record app. I'll be out there.
Oh, yeah.
My hands will be covered in alcohol from doing a chest scan on a foal, and I want to record its abscesses and its temperatures. Well, I can just pull my phone out, hit that, record it real quick with my AirPod, and then I got it for later. And then that now even saves me 10 steps to go in and write on my iPad.
Cool.
And
That's
so
awesome.
having something to save that information, it has been huge, whether it's the iPad or the just press record feature. And then in Wise Options itself, I'm really torn between the macros and the digital circle sheets, I probably think macros might be my favorite. Um, just because they are so, I mean, once you start, you can come up with so many shortcuts with macros. Um, anyway, I think probably macros. Um, and then now the calendar also is one of my favorites too, because with the app now I can uh, see, because I get calls and texts all the time after hours, mostly after hours, like, can I come in tomorrow? 'Cause I feel like, I don't know if all vet clinics are this way, but most of my appointments are scheduled less than 24 hours in advance, within the next 12 hours kind of thing. So being able to pull my phone out, which I have with me always, as opposed to the desktop computer, I can quickly see, schedule it. And then I love how it's linked to the patient. You can color coordinate it with the wounds, everything just so well integrated. So I really like the calendar too.
I'm usually I do this kind of game. I like to ask. I could describe myself or Rachel, but I like to learn how users would describe. How would you explain to our audience, since you elected macros as your favorite? How would you describe macros to those who never heard about it?
Well, it's a tiny little button on the screen that your most commonly used procedures, you can come up with whatever shorthand you want for it. Um, and it can be just one letter, it can be a number, it can be anything. And when you type that in, hit enter, it automatically charges for it. And it can even be as detailed as, so the average dose of Banamine we give is 10 mils of Banamine. And so I have my macro built in for 10 mils of IV Banamine. So if I hit BAN and enter, it'll charge that horse for 10 mils of Banamine IV. And you don't have to click add charge, Plenixin, 10 mils, IV, submit. You can just type in BAN, enter, and it's done. I mean, literally every couple of days I add a new macro. If I find that I'm charging something more than 2 or 3 times, I add a macro. And
Yes.
then, as you know, we use that big screen outside. I'm trying to slowly take more advantage of this, but this time of year the flies are horrible, and we use that permectin pour on the horses. Well, I got Sarah to come up with the color, and we colored the permectin label the same color as the handle on the fly spray jug. And so anytime we do it, and she charges for it, I can see it from across the room. I can see that horse had been charged a permectin dose in the last 14 days, and she's not due for it. I don't even have to read it, And when we give the horse it, she just has to type in her macro. I don't remember what it is, but just a couple letters and then enter, and she charges for it. And so
one of the beauties of the
so
macro is exactly each user can come up with their own combination of letters or numbers.
Yes.
That's I always like to hear how you guys describe, because we learn ways to describe to other people as well. Because Rachel, not so much, but I am fully technical. So my description, sometimes people will look at me with puppy faces, and by that I mean, like, I don't quite understand it. And on top of that, the weird accent, so make things even worse.
one little, I don't know if this is a hack or a trick or whatever, but a couple of the macros, the two I think of right off the top of my head are like xylazine and dermosidan. When my macro is set up for 0.5 mil of Dorm, because that's the average dose I use. So if I type in Dorm and enter, it'll pull up a 0.5 mil IV dose. But there's an option where you can edit and change the volume. And so instead of having 30 macros set up for the different doses of Dorm that I might use, I just have one macro for Dorm, and then I change the concentration real quick and then save it. So instead of, if I use 0.3 on a horse, instead of creating a macro for that, I just use that one macro. But it just pops up, and there's a place to edit it so quick and easy that it's not worth making multiple macros. Because over time, it takes more time to type in Dorm 0.3, Dorm 0.5. So I just have Dorm, and then I can enter it and edit it.
One thing that we could do? We could, in the macro,
create more work for Rachel.
Actually, he's creating more work for the developers.
But one thing we could do is, in the macro, we could come up with some sort of a special character. And if after the special character we have a number, that would be the quantity.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say that Benjamin, if he is B, just B, and let's say that the special character could be the pound sign, and I put B pound 10, or B pound 8, B pound 12. The macro would auto adjust. Rachel, write it down. Let's. Yeah, I'm telling you, talking to Dr. Kennedy, you see, we always learn something new. What do you think about that?
I already wrote down another suggestion, so.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
I think
if it helps one person out, it'll be great.
I think that could do it, the job. All right. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to. That's just my brain.
You don't have to apologize.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You keep apologizing for good ideas. Well, speaking of features, mobile apps, stuff like that, that in the past, couple weeks, we've added quite a few features to the mobile app, and we're looking to add some more, especially with this next round. We're working on, location changes, both, single and massively. So being able to, from your phone, for those you don't know, just from your phone, to be able to select multiple patients and to move them to a new location. And then, of course, also being able to take images and videos as well of horses from your phone and to upload them directly to the patient file. So we're really excited to get working on that. Is there anything kind of that you were kind of thinking that, as especially like you said, you're so, everyone's kind of so hardwired to their phone and trying to, get the most out of it. I know you said using that voice recorder app has really helped you. Is there anything kind of along those lines that, you've been kind of out and about, just only had your phone and you watch, gosh, I wish the app did this, or, I wish this was some way we could incorporate this?
That on the app topic is real quick. It kind of blows my mind how wired people are to using their phones. So this whole new wave of interns, I gave them all access to the app, right? I've had to do zero orientating on how to use the app. Like I give them their access code and they walk away. Like they're like, oh, we got it from here, and they just take it over. It's crazy how they punch all the buttons and figure it out. And
yes.
And then even Curly, he's been utilizing it. He's starting to sales prep with all the yearlings now, and once he figured out the microchip, he can put the microchip in there and he can pull up the horse, the color, the location. He's all about it now. And so the app's been wonderful. I think since rotococcus is on my mind with the time of year, like being able to enter temperatures would be super handy. But I know that would require integration with the whole hospital module, but the treatment list / and/or being able to enter temperatures of patients, would be super handy. I know it's been I've really liked the having the daily worksheet, in that priority list and stuff, and being able to access the mayor records. Because for example, if we're in the middle of palpating and then Sarah gets a phone call and she's looking something up on the computer, in 2 seconds I can open my phone and see what the history on the mare is that I'm palpating, and then it doesn't slow anything down, and we can just keep on rolling. And or being able to answer questions for clients and that sort of thing.
Do your technicians enter progress notes themselves in the treatment list?
They'll enter like temperatures, PCV total proteins and blood work results, that sort of thing. But usually, like, sure enough, progress exams, usually me or we have an intern veterinarian here. Usually one of the two of us are entering most of those.
Okay. I think that, yes, we are now working on the images, as you know. So it's going to be possible to, add images directly from the phone into the patient files. But I think that a very good candidate for our major projects after images would be probably the treatment list, vitals, and progress notes.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've thought how awesome it would be to be able to upload wound pictures. And I know Wise Option has that capability, but I've never done it because then it takes me taking a picture, going and plugging my phone in, uploading into the deal. So I've never utilized that tool on the desktop just because it creates more steps. Right. But if you could sync the wound picture, that'd be huge.
This month?
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, this month I think that we should be having a demo from our developers sometime next week, and I'm even asking them to also include short videos. So for lameness exams, for example,
Yeah.
you could have before and after. Let's say if you give some injections and some joint injections and something like that.
And shoot, even for I mean, we could do pregnancy pictures and ultrasound of heartbeat checks and stuff, and tag that too,
New
for the
babies,
different clients that would want it,
customer communication, just like you said. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. On that same line of customer communication, with the goal of being, one of the big goals, I think, of being a cloud-based software is, that they call silent communication, whether it's between, staff members, interns, or even clients or other vet clinics as well. And so we're always looking at ways to try and, with that in mind, implement new features. I know we'd mentioned last week we're looking into text messages as well. We started talking about, a couple different ways we could really integrate that into our system. And along those same lines, we've thought a little bit more about things like communicating with other veterinary clinics as well. And of course, as one of the big things a lot of veterinary clinics do is they need to be able to share hospital records or MARE records or files between each other. MARE goes to another facility, needs the old records sent. And as we're looking at these integrations, a little closer now and starting to get rolling on them, is there anything in particular that you think it might be really important, when sharing, especially when sharing patient files and maybe in particular hospital files and records between other vet clinics, maybe a horse goes to surgery, what kind of information would be so vital to be able to share, even across, both directions, the horse coming back from surgery?
Yeah. To me, the one thought on that, I think, would be a way to share if say you're sending a horse or a patient for referral, to share just that current hospital record, if that's all that is applicable, be able to send just that open hospital record to a clinic. In some instances, you may want to send some more history. So like say you're sending to another breeding farm, and be able to, send everything so they have vaccines or whatever, that
Right.
patient history button, uh, I just visualize that format, be able to click what you want to send them and then send it kind of thing, potentially. But really, truly, we do mostly horses and cattle here, obviously, as you know, but probably the number one thing I get asked to share and print off, and I preface that with we're mostly horses and stuff, but still the most common thing I get asked to share is dog vaccine records. Because the different ranchers, different people will go on vacation or go wherever, and they're going to a town, and they need to board their dogs, and they need their dog vaccine record. And so that's one of the things I still have to do on papers. I write out, I have a little chart, and I have to fill it out and do their. But if you're able to open their record, they don't need to see everything about that dog's history. They just need a vaccine deal. And so to be able to print off a vaccine history and send it with them, that's just kind of comes to my mind because that's what I'm most asked to share. Something like that, and that's usually to a kennel, not even a veterinarian, but
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah.
How is the Apple Watch working for you with the calendar? Is it doing good?
oh yeah, it's doing great. Yep, it does the alerts right whenever you ask them to, and that's super handy. A good reminder, especially sometimes you'll get real busy out and back, and you don't get time to go to a computer for an hour or two, and you maybe forget you have an appointment. It just dings and tells you. And it's also handy too if an appointment comes in, and instead of me having to schedule the appointment and then also notify my two techs and my intern vet, I can just schedule the appointment and it sends them the alerts for me saying I just scheduled an appointment in 30 minutes, so they all kind of know to get ready for it.
And notifications for appointments on email, is that useful?
A couple of the people don't have Apple Watches. It all the ones that have the app, it dings them, but not everybody has the Apple Watch. And I know one of our technicians, for example, she relies kind of on the email more than just the standard notification.
More options.
But
Gotcha.
but on my setting, I unchecked it because I didn't want one more email to delete. So I like that you have the flexibility. So I personally unchecked the email.
That was Rachel's idea.
I knew that everyone had their preferences, and I completely understand it as someone who I personally don't really care for email notifications, but I know people that like it for, between Eduardo and I, we communicate a lot through email, and that's really nice because we like it for certain things to keep track of records for us. And I understand that for some people that's really good. But like you said, for, you've got so many notifications during the day and so many appointments going on, you probably don't need an email record of each one that goes for your purposes. Yeah, definitely. Well, so it kind of in that same kind of time spans, what kind of things do you think with the mobile app, especially have helped you, you hopefully we'll get to the point, like you said, where, we'll be doing hospital records and having that to be able to be done on the mobile app, as well as obviously entering things like vitals and treatment lists, being able to perform things like that. But kind of with where it is now, have you kind of noticed a difference in being able to enter more stuff in as you go, or being able to decrease data entry on the computer because you've had the mobile app, or kind of not so much, not yet?
Definitely with the calendar, definitely. Because most of my day I spend out back behind the mare. And so I get most of my phone calls and texts right there. And so now I can pull it out and enter in the calendar and not even have to go inside to enter that, and not, just get it on there, get it and go on with life. And so that definitely has helped me, on the scheduling of things. And then, we were also utilizing it, the other check log that you guys put on there too. That was, that whenever we were done pulling out mare now, but the communication between the night girls and the girls that were on during the day, they were utilizing that and really, really loving that app, how, so they know who is waxing, who is getting close. And then I even found it helpful. Like periodically, Dr. Blodgett would come back there and say, "Hey, so-and-so called about their mare. How do they look?" And I'm like, "Here, let me tell you," and able to pull it up real quick and show them, without even having to scramble around and say, "Who saw the mare last?" It doesn't matter who saw it last because we got a log of it. And so, those things have helped. And then the stage it's in right now, I know Phil loves it for sorting mares. Because of the priority list every day, he knows which palpators need to come up, who's the embryo flush, all of that. And then, Curly's also becoming a big fan, helping him with the self prepping, making sure he's got everything labeled right and appropriate and everything. So
yeah, Curly
definitely
was having a hard time with the mobile app in the beginning.
Yes, yeah, you guys understand how big of an improvement. I mean, he didn't even want anything to do with it. And then just 2 days ago, he said, "I'm a big fan of this app now." So that's a big improvement.
I keep asking because, I never imagined that the Cowboys would be so on board with the mobile app like has happened.
Yeah, the other day, Curly was walking around with the microchip reader in his phone, and he was loving it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Now, I still like that post we put on Facebook about Phil Cox, the cowboy geek.
Yep.
That was good.
Yeah. Well, kind of just going along that same line of, hopefully, what we've got going on down the road, as we've got a few integrations going right now between, Global Vet Link and, we're looking into this fall for FedEx, and we've also looked into lab equipment as well. Is there anything?
You guys have a very heavy word. If you could, poke some ribs and get the lab equipment people contacting us, that would be awesome. I'm so eager to have the, blood work already entered into the patient file and let the two machines talk each other.
Yes.
Is there any other integrations that you think, that you've kind of come across to be like, wow, it'd be really nice if this just automatically talked to the system, save you a step of.
Me and Dr. Blodgett were just talking about that the other day. This year, one of the microchip readers, the microchip that we started using have thermometers built in. And one day we were on a Little River day, we were comparing all the microchip temperatures with the rectal thermometer temperatures. And we were talking about how handy that would be if you just microchipped them, and if that reader Bluetooth over to your phone and not only pulled up the patient, but also added that temperature. And then, because on the rotococcus theme right now, the girls go out there and they treat 20 foals or 30 foals twice a day. And part of that's temping them twice a day. And they're usually pretty good for the oral med, but going around and doing their tail and trying to take a thermometer temperature, sometimes that, gets them kicked.
Oh, so well.
But if you could just go in there, catch them, beep them with the microchip, get their temperature, and if they had their phone opened in sync, recorded the temperature, and then that would save them 10 or 15 minutes when they come back in. Somebody has to sit there and record 30 temperatures in the patient file, which all your little tricks like right clicking from the treatment list saves a lot of time. They're not having to open patient files, open vitals, so you guys have definitely streamlined that process. But if it was synchronized and you could Bluetooth your phone, and that was one thought I had, that would be real handy.
Love that idea. Yes. And we could come up even with alerts of those patients, a list of patients that are exceeding certain temperature measured on the day. We could come up and just extract that list. Yes.
Yeah, because just having alerts on hot temperatures. Just the other day, a new intern forgot to tell me about a hot temperature, and then the next day, I just happened to be in that record and see. I was like, oh, and she just didn't realize it needed to tell me. And so if setting an alert deal for high temperatures or something, I like that idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, I know we're kind of getting close to that hour mark. Eduardo, is there any other questions that you kind of had pressing that you wanted to ask?
Just keep bringing your ideas, Nathan. I really love the way your brain works. I really appreciate the time you take to, exploit every single new feature that we have in Wise Option. You have no idea how meaningful that is for us, because that's, sometimes I get a little bit, not sad. No, I don't want to use the strong words, but it's a little frustrating when you do all this crazy stuff and things that you can see people would benefit.
Yeah.
But like in my example, they get dragged into the craziness of the day operation and, forget to spare some times to solve the problem by learning best practices. There's always a best way of doing things.
Yes.
And we are eager to learn, if there's anything we can do for you guys. Please count on us. Thank you so much for being so loyal, so, accessible, and for spreading such a good word about our company and our job. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you very much. So,
of course, I appreciate everything you guys do. And that's what makes you stand apart. Not only is your program so good, but you're right there with us, wanting to be more efficient, wanting to improve, and you really truly are doing it for the people, and I can tell it. Like when you're here, you really do want us to help, make everybody's life easier, make it better, and that means the world too. Knowing that, because the many sleepless nights I had doing paperwork, it means the world to me that you've helped me create a more efficient way of doing things. So, for that, I say thank you for sure.
Well, that's always good to hear. And I wanted to say thank you very much, Dr. Canaday, for joining us today. We understand that it's breeding season, and thank you very much for taking time out today to come talk with us. We really appreciate it.
Of course, anytime.
Well, thank you everyone for watching. I hope everyone stays safe and tune in next time, and stay on Facebook for updates as it goes. And everyone have a good weekend.
Thank you all.
Yep.